Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. I'm Aoife of the Creative Europe Desk Ireland, the Culture Office. We're looking at the call Circulation of European Literary Works 2026. We're going to go through the call and as much detail as we can about preparing your proposal, who can apply, what's funded, and all the other relevant details. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat during the presentation, or we'll have time at the end to answer your questions. So feel free, if anything comes up during the recording, just put them in the chat. So as I said, this is the event, the information webinar on the circulation of European literary works for the call 2026. So what we're doing today is looking at this call in relation to building capacity within the sector in Ireland to be more aware of this call, to try and understand it a little bit more, and to hopefully apply to it in the future. That may not be for this deadline, which is in January, the end of January 2026, but it could be for an application in the future. We are aware that the book and publishing sector is flourishing and growing within Ireland, but also that it is a sector that needs support. And we think that this call in particular is something that could be an opportunity for individual or independent publishers to apply for translating works in the future. So this could be something for your organization. And if it is, listen up and do get in touch with us as well if you have any other further questions around developing a proposal towards this application. So we're going to go into it now and what this call means. So just quickly to look at the Creative Europe desk itself. If you don't know this already, the Creative Europe Desk Ireland is the national contact point for Creative Europe programme in Ireland, and it comprises of 3 offices. So there's the media, have 2 offices, one in Dublin and one in Galway, and the culture has 1 office, that's myself and my colleague Lucy Tevlin, and we're based in the Arts Council of Ireland. So what does the Culture Office do? Well, we do events like this. We give information through webinars and in-person events, networking events. We give advice for and assistance to potential Irish applicants to the Creative Europe programme. And we want to reach as many organisations, individuals, and other potential partners. We want to reach them and let them know and understand about the Creative Europe programme and how they can access it. So we do this by promoting the programme at local, regional and national level. We work closely with our Creative Europe Desk network. We assist with partner searches, so potential partners that you may be aware of or areas within Europe where you'd like to work, we can assist you on that. And we collaborate with both our media office on events and key stakeholders across the sector in Ireland. So briefly to look at why the EU funds culture. So the European Commission sees culture as having a really intrinsic value to its members of its society across Europe. And with that, it has built it into treaty commitments over the years and then within broader EU policy. So these EU policy contexts are what give us the base for the Creative Europe programme. So looking at the Agenda for Culture or the Gender Equality Strategy, we all know the Green Deal or the European Framework for Action on Cultural Heritage. These all feed into the priorities of what the Creative Europe programme looks like. And at the moment, as the flagship programme, it supports cultural and creative sectors. And at the moment, we're in this programme 2021 to 2027. We're coming towards the end of it. And this programme has had a budget of 2.44 billion. And the programme itself, Creative Europe, invests in actions that reinforce cultural diversity and respond to the needs and challenges of the culture and creative sectors. So as I said, 2.44 billion across the programme, and this is how it's split up between the media, the sub-programme and the cross-sectoral strand. And this is also divided into a central administered funding programme, which I said is the 2021 to 27. So the Creative Europe Culture strand looks at different or supports different areas of the creative and culture sector, and it's a wide range of art forms and practices, from architecture to literature and publishing to music and performing arts. The culture priorities then look at resilience and recovery, innovation and joint creation, cooperation and exchange of practices, key players and multipliers, and the capacity building of artists and arts organizations. The funding strands which we work within, and all of these have their own calls. So there's the European cooperation projects, the European networks of cultural and creative organizations, European platforms for the promotion of emerging artists, circulation of European literary works, which we're looking at today, Music Moves Europe, Culture Moves Europe, and Perform Europe. So specifically within this call, there are these overarching priorities. And what the call demands is that you will look at all of these areas and you will develop a strategy or a way, a methodology of addressing these important priorities. And that's within the implementation of your project. So it depends what way you want to develop your project, but you will build in areas in which you will address, for instance, gender equality and social inclusion, sustainability. How is your project going to be sustainable over the course of it? Digital transition. How are you going to disseminate and make your content digitally available, and increasing the competitiveness of it? Looking at AI or opportunities and copyright specifically, maybe. The other area is international relations. And within this call, it's specifically looking at transnational cooperation and support to the Ukrainian cultural and creative sectors. So the objectives of this specific call is to support projects that translate, publish, distribute, and promote European works of fiction. When they're talking about works of fiction, these works need to be written by authors who are nationals or residents in the Creative Europe participating countries. So that's wider than just the member states. There are other countries that are working within the Creative Europe programme. Works of fiction can be irrespective of their genre or format, but looking at novels, short stories, theatre, radio plays, poetry works, comics or youth, and children's literature. So within the call, there are specific priorities. So these are beyond the overarching priorities. These are specific to this call itself. So they're looking at increasing the transnational circulation and diversity of European literary works through translation, publication, distribution, and promotion of fiction, with an emphasis on those written in less widely translated languages. So as they promote to reading and linguistic cultural diversity of European literature to a large audience, to support the profession of the literary translator, looking at good working conditions, fair remuneration, details of translators being visible within the published works, and also looking at competitiveness within the book sector between the actors in the book chain, for example, the publishers, booksellers, and libraries to collaborate together and make it more competitive within the sector. So looking at fair remuneration within your budget, the agency are recommending that you put between 20% and 30% of the total working budget towards the remuneration of translators. So giving them full recognition as well, preferably on the front cover. Publishers must sign a contract then with professional literary translators and reference them in the Creative Europe database. So within the call document, you'll see how to access the Creative Europe database for that purpose. Again, looking at the remuneration, 30% of the budget for translation will go for a novel literary genre. So only 30 needs specifically for the novel, and up to between 20 and 30 for translators of your budget. So looking more at the scale of what you might apply for, there are two categories. So you can apply as an individual applicant, or you can apply in category 2 as a consortium, and that must be 2 or more organizations as that consortium. And we look at a consortium, how they can be made up in a moment. But first of all, the projects can be small, and within that, you'll be looking to translate at least five, minimum of five eligible works, and the budget will be €100,000. For a medium project, you'll be translating a minimum of 11 eligible works with a budget of 200,000. And for large, it will be the translation of 21 eligible works with a budget of 300,000. And with all of these projects, when you apply, you will be given a 60% of a co-fund budget from the European Commission. So that's leaving 40% for the applicant to raise themselves. So who can apply? As we heard there, individual applicants can apply, but they must be legal entities or public or bodies or private bodies within a Creative Europe participating country. That can be the EU member state, including overseas countries and territories, or a non-EU member listed EEA country, and which is associated with the Creative Europe programme, and the list is here. So you can access that to see which countries are eligible. So the consortium can be made up. The consortium must be active within the book sector, and you must register in the participant register before you apply. The composition of the consortium can be both single and a consortium, as we said, but there must be two applicants for the consortium, and the beneficiaries not affiliated entities. So beneficiaries are actual organizations that will receive a portion of the budget. So they are the beneficiaries of the project. But they can be two applicants from the same country that, and in fact, the agency are encouraging that this happens, that organizations collaborate together and work together to apply for the project. So maybe to make up those five, the minimum of five books to be translated, it might be quite hard for a capacity of a smaller publisher to do that on their own. So there is a way to do it where you can collaborate together and apply as a consortium with another organization in the same country. So looking at the scope of the program or of the call, as we heard already, it's translation, publication, promotion, and distribution activities that address the priorities, as we discussed before. Then there are work packages of eligible works of fiction to be translated with a sound editorial distribution and promotion strategy. So that's kind of what's binding your application together, is this editorial strategy, the need for it, and how you're going to distribute and promote it. Activities to facilitate, so they're looking at the scope. We'll look at activities to facilitate collaboration between different actors of the book publishing chain, such as authors, translators, publishers, distributors, booksellers, libraries, literary agents, literary events, and festivals. So it's quite wide-ranging, and it could be a number of organizations together looking at collaborating for all of those elements, the distribution, the promotion, etc. So the activities need to be grouped together in the application, and we look at that at part B of the application. For example, looking at major subdivisions of the project and related deliverables and milestones. So you'll see what that means in a moment. So as we said, each project must include at least 5 works of fiction to be translated, published, and promoted. In addition to the minimum number of translated works of fiction, and as part of the Creative Europe support to Ukraine, again, what they're looking at proposals may include activities and related costs for printing, promotion, and distribution of works of fiction written in Ukrainian. So we can see that in section 2 in the call document. So if you're looking to translate into Ukrainian or from Ukrainian into English, this can be part of your budget and your activities. So if that's something that you wanted to focus on. So activities continued. So all your activities must comply with the following. So they must be works of fiction. Non-fiction works are not eligible. As we see the list there, novels, short stories, etc. Works need to be already published at the date of the call submission deadline. So they need to be published by the 29th of January, and not after. They will not be admissible if they're not published by then. Works need to be written by authors who are nationals of or residents in and recognized as part of the literary heritage of an eligible country. So you need to kind of prove your track record that you are a recognizable part of the literary heritage of your country, and the authors need to be a national or a resident within that country. The works that are not already translated, so the works can't be translated into the target language unless the new translation corresponds to a clearly identified need. And the works should be translated by literary translators and not by artificial intelligence. So that is very clear, that that will not be admissible. So within the call, as part of your project, you can work with a third party who might deliver prizes or other open calls as part of your project. So looking at that, this financial support can be eligible for that other party, but the calls must be very open, published widely, and conform to EU standards regarding transparency. The outcome of the calls must be published on websites with descriptions of projects, award dates, project durations, and legal names for recipients. The call must have clear European dimension. So yeah, you must write that within your application. What is the European dimension part of this? This partnership with a third party, whether they're prizes or it could be residencies or something like that, but you need to clearly identify the European dimension. And the grant for the third party cannot be over €60,000 of the complete budget. So when you look at this call within the call document, you will see that the agency or the assessors will be looking at your operational capacity. Do you have the know-how, the qualifications, and the resources to successfully implement the project and contribute your share to this project? And that's including sufficient experience in projects of comparable size and nature. And financial capacity will also be looked at. In terms of assessment, applicants must have stable and sufficient resources to successfully implement the projects and contribute their own share to it. Organizations participating in several projects must have sufficient capacity to be able to implement all those projects. And the financial capacity check, which will be carried out on the basis of the documents you'll be requested to upload during the grant preparation, which happens after the application date. They will be looking at documents such as your profit and loss account, your balance sheet, your business plan, audit reports by approved auditors, and certified accounts for the last financial year. So work packages more on the kind of the construction of the application itself. So they're divided into 4 mandatory work packages and then an additional work package, depending on whether you want to work with a Ukrainian context. That is a 5th work package, but that is not mandatory. So the first mandatory is your project management work package, and within this, areas of work should include management, planning, administration, evaluation activities. And this is giving examples of what kind of activities. So meetings, evaluation, coordination, quality control, preparation of reports, etc. And deliverables. So this is your actions, what you need to prove that you delivered on the actions. Might include agendas or minutes of meetings, evaluation or quality control reports, some indicators for assessment of activities and their impact, and stuff like that. So they're just examples, but it's a good idea of what you could put in that work package. Again, work package 2 is on translation, and that's another mandatory work package. So for instance, the deliverables of this work package could be proofs of payment and declarations, contracts with translators. Now, these are all mandatory. So the proof of payments with translators is mandatory as well. They may include a translation excerpt, a copy of the translated book, not a draft. Um, Activities should be broken down by each book as well. So within your work package, you will break it down per book. And then again, looking at the appearance and promotion of the literary translation, the translator on the cover of the book, and that source language should be clearly mentioned. So the next work package, which is also mandatory, is the publication and distribution. So deliverables of this could include published books, digital or print. So this is mandatory as a deliverable. Biographies of the translators, so that's mandatory again. And also it could include design, artworks, the layout of the books, the metadata of the books. And again, the activities should be broken down per book. The fourth work package, which is again mandatory, is the promotion and communication. So the promotion and communication for the whole project is one part, and then there should be a promotion and communication strategy for each book. So this work package could look at activities to ensure the adequate visibility of each book, including the visibility of the author, the visibility of activities of the project, and the wide dissemination of its result beyond local and regional levels. So deliverables of this work package might include a communication and dissemination strategy, dissemination campaigns, materials that were used for dissemination events, and then maybe branding materials, brochures, programs, etc. So finally, the work package 5 is the support to works of fiction written in Ukrainian. So this work package should be grouped together the activities of printing, promoting, and distribution of the works of fiction written in Ukrainian in order to ensure their visibility and their access and availability to Ukrainian displaced people and refugees. So it's a very specific work package, and it is not mandatory. So obviously, as I say, it depends what you want to focus your work on, or your project on. The deliverables of this work package might include what you've listed in work packet 3. It's the publication and distribution or the promotion and communication. So you can kind of alter them for the Ukrainian work package as you wish. So looking at the evaluation of the project, it is a standard submission evaluation procedure or process. So there's one stage submission and one stage evaluation. There is an evaluation committee, which has independent outside experts, will assess your applications. They will be checked for eligibility, and then they will be evaluated against the operational capacity and award criteria, and then ranked in according to their scores. So I won't read them all out, but these are the assessment criteria: the relevance, quality content, project management, and your dissemination is also part of the criteria. And this was what you could look like. This is the kind of scoring. So for minimum points within relevance, it's 13 and your maximum is 25. So going through all of the areas of criteria, your overall pass must be 70 to be considered for funding. And then it's down to the competition really after that. But these are the kind of breakdown of how you might be scored within your application process. Um, so you submit your application. All proposals must be submitted directly to the Funding and Tenders portal. And it's a two-step process. So you need to create a user account and register your organization. So once you've done that and you've an EU login account, you can register the organization in the participant register, and you will receive a 9-digit participant identification code, a PIC code. And this is what you will use as your identification or your identifier when you're applying then. When you're submitting your application, there are 4 parts. So part A, B, and C, and then your mandatory annexes. So let me see. Sorry, I'm moving this around. So sorry, we'll go back to part A, part B, part C. I won't read it all together, but basically it includes your administrative information. The next is the description in part B of the action. So it covers technical content of the proposal. And these will be mandatory Word templates that you will download from the submission system. Part A is directly online, and part C is containing your additional project data, and this will be filled in again online with annexes that you upload. So I'll show you we'll look at the annexes. Um, so templates for these will be downloaded, as I said, from the portal submission system. You need to provide a detailed budget, CVs, which are standard two-page CVs of your core project team. You need to provide a list of previous projects, so your key projects for the last 4 years. Other annexes, so information about works and translation will be inputted in the Creative Europe database. And this dossier will be downloaded in a PDF and annexed to Part B of the application. So the Declaration on Publications is a mandatory template. So really, when you read through the core document, you will find out exactly which is which is mandatory and also which is a downloaded PDF. So it can seem quite kind of tricky, but it's not so much once you read it closely. The CVs or the biographies of translators, this is mandatory. So these are all within the other annexes. A creative dossier, which is another mandatory annex, will look at the presentation of the books that you propose for translation, and you will make it into a PDF file, which should include a short synopsis of the works of fiction, information about the main themes, any useful links about the works, and the presentation of authors, including any useful information to justify their eligibility. So it is the main part of it is really getting your head around the documents that you must provide. But once you've kind of figured it all out and you have it ready, you just make sure you keep to the page limits, which you'll see in section 5 of the call document, because XX pages will be disregarded. So just to be mindful of that. Your documents must be uploaded to the right category within the submission system. So you'll see the different categories listed, and just to make sure you upload it to the right one corresponding. Again, otherwise your proposal will be incomplete. And the proposal must be submitted before the call deadline. We'll look at the deadline, exact time and date in a moment. So the application, the call itself is open. It's on the funding and tender portal here. Here's the call document and the online manual, which gives you all the details for the submission process. There's a FAQ on all the related, kind of general related questions for the call. As I said, do read the call documents and the online manual closely, just to check that you have the most up-to-date and relevant details. If you have technical issues, there's a contact here for the IT help desk within the agency, within Creative Europe, and they will help you through any issues. Otherwise, get in touch with us if it's more kind of proposal related. We can help you. So just keep in touch with us. So as I said, the deadline is the 29th of January. So it's 5 p.m. European time. So just to make sure that is correct for yourself so you don't miss it. The evaluation is February to May 2026. The results are July 2026, and so that's your grant agreement signature. So basically you've been successful, and then everything is kind of ironed out around kind of your contracts and your grant, the agreed grant that you will receive by October 2026. The duration of your projects must be at least or under 36 months. And yes, that is it. So I'm just going to leave it there. If you have any questions, do keep in touch. Here's all our contact details. And we have a YouTube channel, which we're going to post this onto afterwards. But if there are any other calls that you're interested in, obviously have a look and get in touch with us. And I think I'll leave it there. Thank you for coming along.